Good morning, Nigeria, and welcome to Daybreak on Trust TV, reaching you from Abuja, Nigeria's capital. I am Ayuba Ilya. Happy to have you join us on the show this morning. Good morning, Stella.
Good morning, Ayuba. Good morning, Nigerians, and thank you for joining us this morning. My name is Stella Iyaji, and I'm super delighted to be here with you.
Yes, first day after a long break. We had Friday and Monday as public holidays.
Yeah.
So today is marking the beginning of the week for many people, and it just says, look, it's the vacation is over.
Get up and go to work.
Back to work, and I hope that people would not be carried away. But interestingly, we saw how people celebrated the Eid al-Fitr this time around.
Yes.
A lot of fun.
A lot of fun.
If you go to some of the places in Abuja, for instance, you see children and everyone just trying to catch some fun.
Especially, for some years, because of the COVID, the celebration was not that huge as it were. But this year, we saw a lot of celebrations. I saw a lot of children, very well dressed, going about their thing.
And there's something that has come to be like a feature of all these festivities, visitations to friends and families.
Hasn't that always been there?
It's always been there. That's the thing. So
because if, for instance, you are of another faith, you're looking forward to that day so that you visit your friend that is a Muslim,
and I'm like,
felicitate
how did
him.
that even came about? What's the whole idea behind it? Like, there are certain people that normally, you probably have even forgotten, but somehow they just come visiting during festivities. It seems like there's something
to share with you in all of the goodies that you're going to enjoy, so that you don't enjoy it alone. Maybe.
Right. I agree totally. Well, it's over now, so let's get back to work. Wake up and smell the coffee,
and wake up to reality. Actually,
yes. All right. Now let's take a look at the headlines this morning. Buhari jets to Ghana for Gulf of Guinea summit.
Medical and Dental Consultants Association of Nigeria tasked Tinubu on health sector reforms.
Chibok schoolgirls escape from Boko Haram captivity in Sambisa.
Now let's take a look at the details. President Muhammadu Buhari will depart Abuja today for Accra, the Ghanaian capital, to attend the third extraordinary session of the Assembly of Heads of States and Government of the Gulf of Guinea Commission, convened by President Nana Akufo-Addo of Ghana. According to a statement by presidential spokesman Femi Adesina, the president is scheduled to participate and deliver remarks at the high-level discussion on strategies for strengthening peace and security and the fight against maritime-related crimes in the region. As the immediate past chair of the Assembly, President Buhari had championed collective efforts by member states of the region, the Economic Community of Central African States, the Economic Community of West African States, the Gulf of Guinea Commission, and their partners to address and prevent piracy. The president will be accompanied by the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Godfrey Oyema, the National Security Advisor, retired Major General Babagana Mongonu, the Director General National Intelligence Agency, Ambassador Ahmed Rufai Abubakar, among other government officials.
All right, now the Medical and Dental Consultants Association of Nigeria has urged the President-elect Bola Tinubu to address the challenges bedeviling the health sector when he assumes office in May. In a congratulatory message signed by its president, Dr. Victor Makonjola, and Secretary General Dr. Yemi Araji, the body stated that the health sector is currently facing challenges of big funding gaps, infrastructure deficits, and a demoralized workforce, and that the poor motivation of healthcare workers has resulted in the ongoing immigration of scarce healthcare workforce to more developed countries. It said an urgent attention from the new administration will be required for any meaningful hope of redemption. The Medical and Dental Consultants of Nigeria said that committed operationalization of the existing health-related laws, such as the National Health Act 2004 and the National Health Insurance Authority Act 2022, has the potential to significantly close the existing funding gaps needed for expanding access to care by a majority of Nigerians pursuant to the attainment of lofty goal of universal health coverage. They assured that the president-elect of the association availability for constructive and patriotic engagement with the administration over most of Nigeria's health system challenges.
Now, 2 of the abducted Chibok schoolgirls have escaped from their captors. The girls escaped from Sambisa Forest on Sunday as a result of intense military operations. A security source said the escapees were identified as Hawa Muta and Esther Marcos from Chibok and the other one from Zilang village. The head of the intelligence unit of the Joint Military Task Force Operation Hardin Kal, Colonel Obina Ezupe, gave the number of the remaining Chibok girls in captivity as 98. In his breakdown, the colonel said out of the 276 abducted Chibok girls, 57 girls escaped in 2014, while 107 girls were released in 2018. 3 girls were recovered in 2019, 2 in 2021, and 9 were rescued in 2022, bringing a total of 178 girls out of captivity and 98 remaining in Boko Haram captivity.
Right. Now, as Nigerians prepare for the May 29th inauguration ceremony that will bring President-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu into office, a crowd of supporters welcomed him back into the country on Monday. The president-elect had taken a 1-month break after the conclusion of the 2023 presidential and governorship elections, leaving many Nigerians puzzled about his plans for the country. Noel Sampson, who was at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, reports.
The plane conveying the president-elect Bola Tinubu landed at the presidential wing of the Nnamdi Azikiwe Airport at about 4:20 p.m. local time. A large crowd is here to welcome the president-elect, who is accompanied by the Speaker, House of Representatives, and other leading members of APC. With Tinubu gone for about a month, it seemed political activities that would determine the direction of the incoming government were stalled. Now, those activities can resume to the delight of the party faithful, who believe his coming to power will bring about progress in all aspects.
This man is going to give Nigeria a new hope. Then hope will be waiting for. Whether you're a young man, you're an old, it's going to carry everybody along. It's going to be a teamwork. So that's why we are all here to support him, to support all our electorate who have given him the mandate for him to become the president-elect, and Shetima himself to become the vice president-elect. So we are happy, and that's why we are here. We are here to show him our support. We are here to show him our solidarity to all Nigerians.
Now that he's back in solidarity, we are all gathered to encourage him, to ensure that he comes by May 29th, he will hit the ground rolling. And what are the issues for Nigeria, for contemporary Nigeria? We're talking about the economy. We're talking about security. We're looking at the fragmentation in terms of the differences that was demonstrated by the opposition. Differences in religion, in ethnicity, and regionalism. These are the contemporary issues, which I know Asiwaju, with so much capacity over the years, will unite Nigerians so that we can all develop in a rapid sequence manner.
We should expect a whole lot in the positive direction. Look at what he did in Lagos State from 1999 to 2007. So there is no doubt that we can preempt what is likely going to happen in Nigeria, counting from 2023 to maybe 2031, I want to believe.
So Nigerians will be happy to see this quintessential president unleashing development and real development in the real sectors of the economy.
All means of speaking to the president-elect was not successful because of the mammoth crowd present at his arrival, but he has his work cut out for him in the following days. The immediate assignment right now is to set forth the strategy to produce the leadership of the 2 chambers of the National Assembly, which will align with the party's choice and fine-tune the zoning arrangement that will be acceptable to all. No, Samson, Trust TV News, Abuja.
Thank you, Noel Sampson, for that report. Yeah, Ayuba, the president-elect is back.
Yes,
I mean, it's been away
for
about a month.
Yes, great time. I would say, well, it's a great relief for him We've heard all the controversies and all the things that Nigerians will normally talk about when we have a president leave the country like this. A lot of criticism. Some people say, why is the president-elect traveling to go and relax? To go and why does he have to travel out of the country? Anyway, that's what they're saying. Now, why does he have to travel out of the country if he wants to refresh himself or if he wants to just take a break from whatever it is? Are there no places in Nigeria where he can actually take a break? That there are so many
places in Nigeria where you could go and rest.
And rest. So they are saying that as a leader, you should lead by example, and you should give some sense of confidence to the people that, look, you do not have to travel out of the country to enjoy your breaks or your vacation or whatever it is. But again, on this other hand of it, the fact that he is president-elect, it doesn't take away the fact that he is an individual.
He's an individual who exactly
rights. He has his own rights to decide wherever he wished to go. I mean, there is no law against this.
And also, the fact that he has come back has put paid to all the rumor. He actually spoke about that. He said nobody should worry about the rumor that is going around, that he's well and that he's ready for the job ahead.
Again, let's not forget also another controversy that has set Twitter on fire, or let me say social media on fire yesterday. In the pictures that were taken of him at the airport, some people were, I would say,
amongst those who came to receive him?
Well, no, from the pictures that were snapped, some people were so keen on, very detailed about everything, such that they snapped and they zoomed in to one of his arms where they said that there's a PCC line attached to his arm, an indication that, he's barely recovered from the illness or the speculated illness.
I have a feeling Nigerians will search for everything and anything. They look for even things that do not exist sometimes.
Exactly. No, but it's there. You could see it there. But, I mean, who knows? It could be photoshopped. It could be real. But, I mean, for a PCC line to be on your arm is an indication that you probably, went through some kind of medical.
But then, Ayuba, when I see all of that, I'm wondering, everybody can seek medical attention at any time. Do you get it could be anyone. Anybody could fall ill and seek medical attention and recover as well.
So you may say Nigerians are making a mountain out
of a molehill. That's what I think. I think everybody should just calm down. Let's look forward to what the future holds. So let's take a look at the second package for this morning. Laying of the pipeline for Nigeria's Trans-Saharan gas project, the AKK has now attained 400 kilometers distance, representing 68% of the right-of-way from Ajaokuta in Kogi State to its destination in Kano. This came to the fore during a routine inspection led by the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation Limited management team on Monday in Kogi State. Chairman Daybreak reports.
The Ajaokuta-Kaduna-Kano AKK pipeline, which is being developed by the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation Limited, is a 614-kilometer-long natural gas pipeline which will originate from Ajaokuta and pass through Abuja and Kaduna before ending at a terminal gas station in Kano. The project is estimated to cost $2.8 billion and forms the first phase of the Trans-Nigeria gas pipeline. Work at the AKK pipeline is ongoing despite rumors that NNPC Limited has lost its financiers due to an alleged 570% inflated contract sum.
This project has not stopped for one day. We are continuing to fund it despite the fact that we do not have third-party financing on this project. We have so far spent over $1.1 billion on this project from our cash flow. So we do not need any support on this project. We will deliver this project. As we speak now, our contractors, we don't owe $1 to our contractors today. Yes, there are challenges, security issues. We have lost men and we are so sorry to their families. We continue to share their grief. 70% of all welding work have been completed. There are very many other components of this project. So once you are able to complete the welding and put certain basic installation, you can actually flow gas into this line, and as other parts of the project continue to be delivered. This line will flow 2 billion scoop of gas. And what this means is that you are delivering 2 billion scoop of gas every day into this line, powering industries, powering power plants, creating gas-based industry. And this is the ultimate objective.
The project is said to be nearing completion with procurement at 88%, while engineering design stands at 93.48%, just as 94% of the total line pipes have been manufactured locally in order to boost local content. On the sidelines of the visit, journalists were told that upon completion, the project will facilitate development in the country.
This project, as the GMD has said, will trigger a lot of development after its completion by stopping gas flaring, then supporting gas-based industry, power generation, fertilizer company, and so forth. As you've seen the challenges involved, we are not unaware of those challenges. As they come, we tackle them. So, as I said, the pipeline construction is already 70-something%. Yes, as well we are deploying more resources to complete it and deliver value to Nigeria.
The project was primarily conceived to revive ailing industries around the corridor. It will also feature construction of direct pipeline installation DPI across the River Niger, as well as several ongoing special constructions. Chamun Dabeng, Trust TV News, Abuja.
All right, now the controversy over the tussle for the traditional ruler seat in Agbowo town in Iwo local government area of Osun State has taken a dangerous dimension as some aggrieved indigents allegedly attacked and threatened to kill a prominent monarch, Oba Moshood Alamu, in his palace. 4 persons have been arrested by police in connection with the attack on the traditional ruler. However, Oba Alamu is insisting that there is a real danger to his existence and to the lives of his family members, chiefs and aides. Hamid Oegbade reports.
Oba Moshood Alamu Okparonke, the Onisahara of Feesu in Iwo local government area of Osun State, is the traditional constituted authority over Agbowo town in Iwo land. Oba Alamu appointed district heads, known as Baale in Yoruba parlance, to be in charge of towns under him for administrative convenience. The state governor, Ademola Adeleke, recently elevated one of the Baales, Prince Musbau Akande Gbenusola, to become the Olu of Agbowo. But those aggrieved by Akande's promotion by the governor unleashed their anger on Oba Alamu.
They said they wanted to kill me because the government promoted Olu of Agbowo, that is Musbau Gbenusola, to Obashi. So the state government has the power to promote anybody from Bale to Oba, not chief, not ordinary chief, but anybody that become Bale, they can promote. The state government has the right for the promotion. So that is how they said I'm the one that promoted. I say, oh, how can I do it? The state government, you don't see the paper.
But not all residents of Agbowo are unhappy with the elevation of Oba Akande. In fact, some are delighted because of his antecedents when he served as Baale.
See the pronouncement of our Baale Gbenusola being promoted to be king in our community here. We are very happy with the pronouncement, and we are very supportive with that man because Baba Gbenusola is a very good man in the environment.
Yeah. So we are grateful and we are happy, and we are thanking the governor of Osun State for bestowing us this opportunity. We are grateful.
It is a welcome development. In fact, the people of Agbowo are very grateful to our amiable governor. We are even praying for him to move higher, to go higher and higher.
The new Oba, Musbau Akande Gbenusola, appealed to people of Agbowo to continue to live peacefully and warned that whoever that goes against the law will not go scot-free. My people of Agbowo town, let us cooperate. I need your cooperation. Don't go against the law. Whoever that goes against the law will be punished according to the law. God will bless all of us. Agbowo shall be peaceful. The traditional ruler called on police to properly investigate the attack on Oba Alamu and prosecute the perpetrators. Hamid Oyegbade, Trust TV News, Osogbo.
Thank you, Hamid Oyegbade, for that report from Agbo. With that, we'll now go for a very short break. When we return, the show continues. Please stay.
That's great. It's good to see you.
Trust TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
Where you find that look at the
not necessarily tribal or regional.
I have said that.
All right, welcome back. It's Daybreak on Trust TV. It's time for us to take a look at the dailies on Daybreak. And we'll begin with the Daily Trust newspaper this morning. Talking about the lead story here, it's talking about 2023 Hajj. It says, Nigerian airlines seek more slots. Saudi carrier takes 40%. 60 domestic airlines share 51 billion naira. Saudi gets 34 billion naira. And then, we must respect bilateral pacts, says experts. Our local capacity to deliver major problem. And that's on page 4 of the Daily Trust newspaper. You also would see other stories there. Benue man buried alive over witchcraft. You'd find that on page 17. Election Tribunal, Falana, others back live broadcast. You would see that on page 24. 2 Chibok girls escape from Boko Haram captivity. Now, above the lead story, 70% of NNPC's AKK gas pipeline delivered, project not abandoned, says Kyari. Fresh intrigues as Northwest insist on Senate presidency. You'll find that on page 10. Tinubu returns, says, I'm ready for task ahead. And that's on page 5. These are the main stories on Daily Trust this morning.
Now let's take a look at the Punch newspaper. It has a lead story that says, Tinubu returns after 34 days, dismisses ill health rumors. And the first rider says, ignore ill health rumors. I will assemble strong team and hit the ground running, President-elect. We also have President-elect, APC National Working Committee to meet lawmakers-elect over NAS leadership. And below that, we have a pictorial of the President-elect stepping out of the aircraft and that of his supporters. We also have Ondo farmers raise the alarm over herdsmen attacks. Still on the Punch, Lagos Stadium from West Africa's best to national shame. 8 states got zero investments in 4 years. This is according to a report. And just above the masthead, we have Sudan conflict. Ethiopia blocks fleeing Nigerian students. Functions agree 72-hour ceasefire. And we have a rider that says federal government knocks students for ignoring warnings against self-evacuation. Still on the Punch, Nigeria Governors Forum holds valedictory session for 17 outgoing governors. These are the major stories on the Punch newspaper for today.
All right, now let's take a look at the Nation newspaper. On the Nation, the lead story says, we will deliver on renewed hope agenda, Tinubu affirms. I'm strong, very strong. Rousing welcome for President-elect. Now, above the, I would say right below the masthead, 2,800 Nigerians expected today from Sudan. You have also above the masthead, AKK pipeline to boost power with 3,600 megawatts. NNPCL invest $1.1 billion. How APC will zone Senate House top post. You'd find that on page 5 of the Nation. Why we are embracing private partners by NDDC. Lagos to roll out blueprint on transportation. Now, these are the main stories on the Nation newspaper this morning.
Now let's take a look at this day newspaper. Still on the return of the president-elect. It says, according to Tinubu, disregard rumor about my health. I'm refreshed, ready for task ahead. And the rider, Nigerians are glad to see you back and fit, says Barrow. The second rider, APC to suspend Amechi's ex-chief of staff, others over anti-party activities. And above that, we have, this is from Afenifere, resurgence of terrorism after 2023 polls worrying. And just above the masthead, we have 5 big banks stand firm despite economic headwinds. The writer says hold combined as total assets of 58 trillion naira, 1.1 trillion naira profits. And beneath that, we have from Wigwe, we want 30% trade in Africa facilitated by Access Holdings. These are the major stories on this day newspaper.
All right, now on the Guardian newspaper this morning, the lead story, we have International Day. Nigerians spend 2.04 trillion naira yearly on malaria prevention and treatment. All that on page 6. You have also above that, Afenifere tackles Buhari over resurgence of terrorism, plea for forgiveness. Pharmacists kick over exclusion from 40% pay rise for workers, make demands. You have also 161,272 financial threats blocked in Nigeria last year. Worries over HND BSc bill as Buhari's exits nears. You also have, after 34 days rest overseas, Tinubu affirms readiness for task ahead. So these are the main stories on The Guardian this morning.
Now let's take a look at the Vanguard newspaper, still on the president-elect. Sean rumors, I am strong, Tinubu says on arrival from France. Adds, I've rested, refreshed, ready for tasks ahead. And then we also have party leaders to meet soon on zoning of offices. This is according to a source. We have 3 killed as Baggy Hausa youths clash in Abuja. Abducted Kogi monarch dies in kidnappers' den. Again, court dashes Nigeria airs hope of flying. And above the masthead, Sudan, evacuation of over 2,000 Nigerians begins today. We also have 40% pay rise, varsity workers on warpath with federal government over exclusion. I have no reason to take rest because of election. This is according to Peter Obi. And above that, CBN defends forex ban on stockfish importation. These are the major stories on the Vanguard newspaper for today.
All right, now let's get perspectives to some of the stories that we are seeing on our papers this morning. We have Dr. Theophilus Abba, the director of Daily Trust Foundation, with us in the studio to give perspectives to some of the stories we have this morning. Thank you, Doctor, for joining us on
Thank you,
Daybreak.
and good morning.
Yes. Well, a lot of stories, particularly everywhere, seem to be agog with the news of the return of the president-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Amidst the controversy, the criticism, party supporters were, giving a rousing welcome to the president-elect at the airport yesterday. But while all of that was happening, some people were busy looking at the picture of the president-elect, and for them, the catheter seen on his arms is like a validation of all the, talk about his health and him seeking medical attention in France and the rest of them. What do you make of, the mixed reactions trailing the return of the president-elect?
Well, I think, personally, I'm thinking that it's good that he was away for so long. And if what he did was to go and plan. Now, initially he said, it's my turn, or it was his turn to become president. And we've heard that, before. I remember in 2015, some journalists interviewed Buhari in Daura and said, we sympathize with you. Nigeria is so dysfunctional, and now you are taking over, things are bad. He said, no, I wanted it. I asked for it. So I'm going to deal with the challenges I will face. Now, Tinubu was away for 30-something days. And I feel that if he was not ill, nobody has proved that he was really ill. If he was not ill, he must have gone to rest in order to plan. Because there's a lot of work to do. It's a whole lot of work to do. So I just hope that he traveled, he rested, and planned on how to deal with the challenges we face in this country. because it's not enough to realize an ambition. You know, the fact is that being a president of Nigeria at this point in time is a very huge challenge. So if he has rested, you know, I mean, some of the lines from him said, "Oh, I'm ready to face the challenges," and all this and all that. I just hope he has actually planned. But then, if he went to take care of his health, it is still not wrong. Sorry, because I know that, you see, the work ahead is not for the unhealthy.
Yeah, but what others are saying is that, you know, the whole talk about medical tourism, that if and it is if here, because it is all in the realm of speculation. We're meant to believe by the spokespersons of the president-elect that he was on vacation, he went to take a rest, and, you know, from the rigors of campaigns and all that. But again, with this PICC line we're seeing on his arm, seem to be like there is a medical attention as part of the reason behind his travel. Now, if that were to be the case, then people will be thinking, okay, is the president-elect really fit for the task ahead, for how tedious the task ahead is? Those are some of the worries and concerns.
It's true. We should be worried because we need a president that is fit. But, you know, I mean, the fact that his health may not be the best, I mean, his health condition may not be the best, is not new. Right from even before the election, there have been issues about his health. You know, he traveled, people went to visit him to say, "Oh, we understand that you are not well, sorry, blah, blah, blah." You know, I don't know. In spite of the rumors about his ill health, he still won an election. So my own thinking is that if he went to take care of his health, we just pray that he will be good. I mean, he will be in a good state of health to be able to deal with the task ahead.
All right.
You know, because there's nothing anybody can do now.
But what about?
INEC has declared him the winner of the election.
Sorry, Stella. What about seeking medical attention in the country without, you know, going out? I mean, it's supposed to be a demonstration of, you know, what you have promised.
Yes, you know, it's good if he sought medical attention in Nigeria, it would have been okay. But then there's nothing wrong with him going out to say, "Okay, I need medical support," especially if he has maybe, I mean, personal physicians who are in the UK or in the US or in France or any part of the world. But my own concern is that I hope that he is ready to face the challenges ahead, because, you know, if he's not healthy, it will be a big blow to the Nigerian public. Because you can't have a president who is not mentally alert to deal with the many problems that we are facing in the country.
All right, talking about challenges, one that is on the front burner now is that of the leadership of the NAS. And a lot of people have been saying all eyes are on the president-elect. He hasn't said anything. In fact, before he traveled, he said his is about competence and not, you know, and all. He said he wasn't actually interested, or he didn't have a preferred candidate and all of that. To what extent do you think his intervention will help on this? Because so far we have seen, because the party hasn't zoned it, we have seen people from all parts of Nigeria indicating interest in this position. And there are fears also that what happened in 2015 could repeat itself. And we have also seen people in minority parties in the National Assembly coming together, having meetings and all of that.
No, my own position is that the positions in National Assembly must be zoned. You know, and the reason why I insist that they must be zoned is because, you see, without zoning, there will be no inclusivity. I think I have mentioned this again and again, that Nigeria, you know, must pursue inclusivity. Nigeria must pursue equity. You know, you can't tell us that, oh, you have the president from one part of the country, you have the vice president from one part of the country, the senate president comes from that part of the country, the speaker comes from that part of the country. It doesn't happen. So I'm expecting that by now, it should have been very clear to Nigerians that, look, the positions in the National Assembly, Senate presidency, Speaker of the House of Rep have been zoned. And the zoning must be seen to be fair, to bring others who have been excluded, let me use the word now loosely, into the system, into the governance.
Do you think that the president-elect's intervention will help streamline the process?
He has to intervene. because everybody looks up to him now. Everybody believes that, look, you have been elected, you've been announced president of Nigeria, you should take steps. People are watching him. So he has to ensure that there's inclusivity.
All right. Well, a lot of intrigues, really. I'm looking at also what the SAN, Femi Falana, is saying about the election tribunal. Here we have the story that says Falana, others back live broadcast for the election tribunal. So there's a lot really going on as regards that. This is not something that is common here. But because it is a presidential election and people are very interested, it has become a matter of public interest. People want to see what is going to happen at the tribunal during this litigation. So what's your own take on this?
Now, I think if people like Falana are saying that there must be live broadcast, it presupposes that they doubt the transparency of the tribunal, because the election that has happened in Nigeria, you saw that a lot of doubts are cast over, especially the presidential results. And I think that in order to ensure that the process, the judicial process, is transparent, there could be a kind of live broadcast. But I'm also feeling that the judiciary must demonstrate that they are quite they are transparent on their own. Even if it is not a live broadcast, the outcome must be clear that, look, they didn't take sides, in the process. So I'm feeling that whether it is a live broadcast, whether it is a secret hearing that will take place among the contenders, it is good for the judiciary to demonstrate that they are free and fair. They must demonstrate that they will dispense justice, that they look at the evidence presented to them and come out with the kind of judgment that Nigerians will say, well, they have done the right thing. That's what Nigerians are looking forward to, especially when it comes to the presidential election. When there are doubts, when there are indications that some of the results that were announced by INEC, were not actually correct. I remember, I think last week, one newspaper went to a portal, the IRF portal, and tabulated whatever results were found on the portal in Rivers, and they came out with an outcome that is totally different from that of INEC. He said another political party won, based on what is on IRF portal.
All right.
Now, what we're expecting is this: there are a lot of evidence we presented before the tribunal and ultimately the Supreme Court. We expect that they will do the right thing.
Do you think that a live broadcast will make the outcome more acceptable to Nigerians?
No, a live broadcast, like I said, is actually because people have a kind of doubt about the impartiality of the tribunal, and that is why they say, okay, we want to see you on stage, we want to see you on camera, doing it, so that at least if you're on camera, you will not do what is openly wrong, But I'm thinking that it must not be a live broadcast, but the judiciary must be able to come up with an outcome that will be acceptable to all Nigerians, that will be seen to be free and fair.
How much of a distraction do you think that this litigation will be for the incoming government? Because, having to face the tribunal and having to, keep a tab on what's happening at the courts to make sure victory, is an issue that the incoming government will have to deal with. Yes, there are lawyers that will be fighting, this case in court on behalf of the new government. But then, do you see that this could be could cause some kind of distraction?
Well, I think it would definitely naturally lead to a kind of distraction, because anybody who's sworn in may be waiting for the judiciary to make a pronouncement that consolidates his position. If he's afraid that the judiciary, the outcome of the judicial process will not favor him, he may not, be able to do much. And that is why I think I support those who canvass that after every election, perhaps instead of going through the the Court of Appeal or the tribunal before the Supreme Court, it is good for us to, go straight to the Supreme Court. Every appeal should go to the Supreme Court so that the Supreme Court can decide before the government is sworn in. Because if you are a sitting president and it's so clear that your election is still doubtful, you are still not, it's still precarious. There's no way you can have that presence of mind to be able to do things that you ought to do. Waiting and watching. What will the tribunal do? What will be the outcome of?
But with almost every politician who loses going to seek redress or whatever, don't you think that putting everything on the Supreme Court will be too much?
I think it's the presidential election I'm talking about.
Okay.
Not the governorship. That governorship can, the governorship. Okay, governorship is also, it faces the same situation. But I think if we streamline it in such a way that it's okay, let the Supreme Court, handle election litigations. It may actually reduce the number of, days we have to, pass through the litigation process. Then it will also be possible to actually conclude these things before they are sworn in. But because what it takes is that Party A brings their own argument, Party B brings in their own argument. Then the judges will sit and look at them and say, okay, let's say this is what we have discovered, this is what we have noticed. We'll come and present your evidence, and then they will decide.
But doctor, you know that for the presidential election, the whole thing takes 180 days. So even if somebody is sworn in, it just within 6 months he knows his fate and he moves on.
But 6 months is a long time, because if you have to hit the ground running, waiting for 6 months, dilly-dally for 6 months. I think Buhari was quite lucky that in 2015, Jonathan did not talk about any litigation. He said, well, I've lost.
Even at that, we saw that the forming of the cabinet...
It was even delayed.
All right, well, that's another story here, which is away from politics now, talking about a Benue man that was buried alive over witchcraft. That's on page 17. I find it absurd that we still have stories like that, these days, coming from the rural areas, and there. What do you make of this kind of scenario? Now, here is a man who is an elderly man who is quite aged, who was mobbed by youths in a village, in a community, because they feel that the man, has killed some people. Now, there was a lightning, and as a result, his son died.
They are alleging that he killed his own son.
Exactly.
Not just even some people, his own son.
So his wife, his son,
and his grandchild,
and a child, and a baby. And everything was blamed on the man. That this is how he causes or he kills people, using witchcraft and all that.
But that is the evidence of lack of governance at that level. Because if, for instance, you have effective policing of that community, as soon as policemen discover that, look, some youths are on the rampage and they are threatening the life of an elderly man, they have to mobilize. First of all, maybe whisk the man away, take him to a safe location, because witchcraft cannot be proved. Over time we have discovered that witchcraft cannot be proved. So you can't accuse anyone of witchcraft
is that why
take the law into your hands.
Exactly. So is that why people take laws or matters
into their hands? People are taking the law into their hands because there is no
way to prove it.
People take the law into their hands because there is no governance.
But in this instance, they went and buried the man alive. The police came there. The only problem was that by the time the police got there, the man had died.
Yeah, but the police ought to have come much earlier. You don't wait until the deed has been done before you get there. If there is governance, as soon as the young men began to protest, somebody will call the police, and police will mobilize and say, look, there's a threat here. Somebody's life is under threat. And then they will come and take him away.
So good enough that you said that somebody will have to make that call. But you have a situation where probably there's a consensus by people in that area or in that community to think that, oh, this man is, you know, it's a witch.
No, but usually there will not be a kind of consensus, absolute consensus like that, because there are people in the community who will not agree with what the youth did. You know, for instance, if you have a pastor, I'm just giving an example now, in that community who believes in deliverance, say, bring him to me, I will lay hands on him, will deliver him of witchcraft. You understand? So I'm saying that not everybody will concede, but it is because we don't have, even the vigilante in that community, if they knew what they should be doing as vigilante, they will have to rescue the man and ensure that he's taken to a safe location.
Doctor, you keep talking about what they should have done, but why is it that citizens are even thinking this way? We're in the 21st century, 2023, for God's sake.
Because of lack of enlightenment. Look, I was reading a story yesterday. Let me just digress a bit. I read a story yesterday about the Indians, and there's what they call the sati. If you were married and your husband died, you know, then you have to be burnt alive as a woman. The widow must be killed in India. That was in the 19th century. And then the British government and the British colonialists said, no, this is barbaric. This is murder. You understand? So if you compel a widow whose husband, you compel a widow to burn herself alive in the name of tradition or culture or religion, then you have committed murder. And people who compelled women to do it after the law was passed, they were arrested and tried for murder. Now, that was in the 19th century, around 1830 something. What I'm trying to say is this. You see, in Nigeria, even the laws that we have not been implemented. Because there is no law that says somebody is a witch. Because our own legal system has to do with evidence. If you say this man killed his son, he killed his grandson, he killed Mr. A, killed Mr. Where is the evidence? And the evidence must be such that you can tender in the court of law. A murder has to be taken to the court. It's a criminal case. It has to be taken to the court of law. In fact, those who buried the man alive should be taken to court and punished because they have committed murder. So we have to enlighten our people. We have to enlighten ourselves that you cannot accuse anyone of witchcraft and kill. And it happens in several parts of Nigeria. In Cross River State, for instance, for a very long time, even children were molested because they were accused of witchcraft. Somebody who cut a young girl, a young boy's finger. I saw her in my dream. I saw him in my dream. That is a witch. Or one prophet told me that child is going to kill me. And then the next thing you do is to. So there's a whole lot of enlightenment that needs to take place in Nigeria. And the law must work. The law should not be only for politicians. As in urban centers, maybe the law, people try to go to court, people call in the police. But in rural communities, they are also part of Nigeria. The law must be made to function in those areas. You cannot go, even if I were the local government chairman, we have to arrest everybody who participated in that.
But again,
then ensure that they face justice.
But again comes the question of capacity of the police, for instance. So in that particular community, perhaps you may have, if there is, a security or police post or some kind of police station or something, maybe you may not have the adequate number of people that is required to actually arrest that kind of a situation where you have a mob. It's a chaotic. I can only imagine that it's a chaotic scenario here. So it will require quite a lot to put things or to bring things under control. If care is not taken, the police itself will be attacked in the process.
No, I think yes, we don't have enough policemen. We've said that again and again, that the rural areas in Nigeria are not under-policed. But then when you talk about people being enlightened, you understand, it's another issue. Because when you enlighten people to say, okay, witchcraft, you cannot accuse somebody of witchcraft because you don't have evidence of witchcraft. You cannot take the law into your hands. You cannot kill anyone simply because you feel that he has committed an offense. It is illegal. It is a crime to even do that. Then when people are enlightened and taught that, look, if there is any civil disturbance, call the police, call so number, and the numbers are effective. If you have about 100 persons, who are engaged in that kind of criminal act. And 2 policemen arrive, 10 arrive with a gun or with guns. These people will disperse because they have superior weapon. You understand? So
all right, well, we
I'm thinking that there is need for the police to make sure that people can access them. If you are a DPO in a community, maybe in a district, and people don't have your number, they cannot call you. If they call you, you do not connect. It's totally wrong.
All right. We certainly need that enlightenment, especially if you consider the fact that it is at a time like this. We are also hearing another story in Kenya where people were said to have starved themselves to death because they feel that starving themselves to death, they will meet God. You know,
Honestly,
they will go to heaven.
That story is beyond me.
So it's certainly a need. We need to have that enlightenment across the continent, not just even in Nigeria, but many parts of the country.
But why is this more common in Africa?
Mysterious, I would say, mythical.
I think it has to do with, how words are used on people. You know, I mean, if somebody tells you that, if you fast, you live a righteous life, isolate yourself from the outside world, and you fast until your life is gone. You have not committed any sin. You are now clean. You have prayed in the name of Jesus. You have confessed your sins. That you go to heaven. I mean, a lot of people will believe it.
All right, Doctor. Unfortunately, we have to go. This is a discussion for another day.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us on Daybreak and sharing your perspectives with us. Dr. Theophilus Abba is the director of the Daily Trust Foundation, joining us this morning on Daybreak. We'll take a short breather, and then when we return, top of the hour, we'll take a look at the headlines again. Join us again.
But in a situation where you find that they look at the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
because I have said that.
Trust TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
All right, welcome back. It's Daybreak on Trust TV. We are an hour into the show. We'll be taking a look at the headlines again for those who are just joining at this moment. Now, Buhari jets to Ghana for Gulf of Guinea summit.
Medical and Dental Consultants Association of Nigeria taxed Tinubu on health sector reforms.
Chibok schoolgirls escape from Boko Haram captivity in Sambisa.
Now let's take a look at the details. President Muhammadu Buhari will depart Abuja today for Accra, the Ghanaian capital, to attend the third extraordinary session of the Assembly of Heads of States and Government of the Gulf of Guinea Commission, convened by President Nana Akufo-Addo of Ghana. According to a statement by presidential spokesman Femi Adesina, the president is scheduled to participate and deliver remarks at the high-level discussion on strategies for strengthening peace and security in the fight against maritime-related crimes in the region. As the immediate past chair of the assembly, President Buhari had championed collective efforts by member states of the region, the Economic Community of Central African States, the Economic Community of West African States, the Gulf of Guinea Commission, and their partners to address and prevent piracy. The president will be accompanied by the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Geoffrey Onyema, the National Security Advisor, Major General Babangana Mongono, retired, the Director General, National Intelligence Agency, Ambassador Ahmed Rufai Abubakar, among other government officials.
All right. Now, the Medical and Dental Consultants Association of Nigeria has urged the President-elect Bola Tinubu to address the challenges bedeviling the health sector when he assumes office in May. A congratulatory message signed by its President, Dr. Victor Makonjola, and Secretary General, Dr. Yemi Raji. The body stated that the health sector is currently facing challenges of big funding gaps, infrastructure deficits, and a demoralized workforce, and that the poor motivation of health care workers has resulted in the ongoing immigration of scarce health workforce to more developed countries. It said an urgent attention from the new administration will be required for any meaningful hope of redemption. The Medical and Dental Consultants of Nigeria said that the committed operationalization of the existing health-related laws, such as the National Health Act 2004 and the National Health Insurance Authority Act 2022, has the potential to significantly close the existing funding gaps needed for expanding access to care by a majority of Nigerians pursuant to the attainment of lofty goal of universal health coverage. They assured the President-elect of the association's availability for constructive and patriotic engagement with the administration over most of Nigeria's health system challenges.
2 of the abducted Chibok schoolgirls have escaped from their captors. The girls escaped from Sambisa Forest on Sunday as a result of intense military operations. A security source said the escapees were identified as Hawa Muta and Esther Marcos from Chibok and the other one from Zilang village. The head of the intelligence unit of the Joint Military Task Force Operation Hadinkai, Colonel Obina Ezekwe, gave the number of the remaining Chibok girls in captivity as 98. In his breakdown, the colonel said that out of the 276 abducted Chibok girls, 57 escaped in 2014, while 107 girls were released in 2018. 3 girls were recovered in 2019, 2 in 2021, and 9 were rescued in 2022, bringing a total of 198 girls out of captivity and 98 remaining in Boko Haram custody.
All right. Now, as Nigerians prepare for the May 29th inauguration ceremony that will bring the President-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu into office, a crowd of supporters welcomed him back into the country on Monday. The President-elect had taken a 1-month break after the conclusion of the 2023 presidential and governorship elections, leaving many Nigerians puzzled about his plans for the country. Noel Sanson reports.
The plane conveying the President-elect Bola Tinubu landed at the presidential wing of the Nnamdi Azikiwe Airport at about 4:20 p.m. local time. A large crowd is here to welcome the President-elect, who is accompanied by the Speaker, House of Representatives, and other leading members of APC. With Tinubu gone for about a month, it seemed political activities that would determine the direction of the incoming government were stalled. Now, those activities can resume to the delight of the party faithful, who believe his coming to power will bring about progress in all aspects.
This man is going to give Nigeria a new hope. then hope will be waiting for. Whether you're a young man, you're an old, it's going to carry everybody along. It's going to be a teamwork. So that's why we are all here to support him, to support all our electorate who have given him the mandate for him to become the president-elect, and Shetima himself to become the vice president-elect. So we are happy, and that's why we are here. We are here to show him our support. We are here to show him our solidarity to all Nigerians.
Now that he's back in solidarity, we are all gathered to encourage him, to ensure that he comes by May 29th, he will hit the ground rolling. And what are the issues for Nigeria, for contemporary Nigeria? We're talking about the economy. We're talking about security. We're looking at the fragmentation in terms of the differences that was demonstrated by the opposition. Differences in religion, in ethnicity, and regionalism. These are the contemporary issues, which I know Asiwaju, with so much capacity over the years, will unite Nigerians so that we can all develop in a rapid sequence manner.
We should expect a whole lot in the positive direction. Look at what he did in Lagos State from 1999 to 2007. So there is no doubt that we can preempt what is likely going to happen in Nigeria, counting from 2023 to maybe 2031, I want to believe.
So Nigerians will be happy to see this quintessential president unleashing development and real development in the real sectors of the economy.
All means of speaking to the president-elect was not successful because of the mammoth crowd present at his arrival, but he has his work cut out for him in the following days. The immediate assignment right now is to set forth the strategy to produce the leadership of the two chambers of the National Assembly, which will align with the party's choice and fine-tune the zoning arrangement that will be acceptable to all. No, Samson, Trust TV News, Abuja.
From the Federal Capital Territory and to other issues. Laying of the pipeline for Nigeria's Trans-Saharan Gas Project, the AKK, has now attained 400 kilometers distance, representing 68% of the right-of-way from Ajaokuta in Kogi State to its destination in Kano. This came to the fore during a routine inspection led by the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation Limited Management Team on Monday in Ahoko, Kogi State. Chairman Dabeng completes the report.
The Ajaokuta-Kaduna-Kano AKK pipeline, which is being developed by the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation Limited, is a 614-kilometer-long natural gas pipeline which will originate from Ajaokuta and pass through Abuja and Kaduna before ending at a terminal gas station in Kano. The project is estimated to cost $2.8 billion and forms the first phase of the Trans-Nigeria gas pipeline. Work at the AKK pipeline is ongoing despite rumors that NNPC Limited has lost its financiers due to an alleged 570% inflated contract sum.
This project has not stopped for one day. We are continuing to fund it despite the fact that we do not have third-party financing on this project. We have so far spent over $1.1 billion on this project from our cash flow. So we do not need any support on this project. We will deliver this project. As we speak now, our contractors, we don't owe $1 to our contractors today. Yes, there are challenges, security issues. We have lost men and we are so sorry to their families. We continue to share their grief. 70% of all welding work have been completed. There are very many other components of this project. So once you are able to complete the welding and put certain basic installation, you can actually flow gas into this line, and as other parts of the project continue to be delivered. This line will flow 2 billion scoop of gas. And what this means is that you are delivering 2 billion scoop of gas every day into this line, powering industries, powering power plants, creating gas-based industry. And this is the ultimate objective.
The project is said to be nearing completion with procurement at 88%, while engineering design stands at 93.48%, just as 94% of the total line pipes have been manufactured locally in order to boost local content. On the sidelines of the visit, journalists were told that upon completion, the project will facilitate development in the country.
This project, as the GMD has said, will trigger a lot of development after its completion by stopping gas flaring, then supporting gas-based industry, power generation, fertilizer company, and so forth. As you've seen the challenges involved, we are not unaware of those challenges. As they come, we tackle them. So, as he said, the pipeline construction is already 70-something%. Yes, as well we are deploying more resources to complete it and deliver value to Nigeria.
The project was primarily conceived to revive ailing industries around the corridor. It will also feature construction of direct pipeline installation DPI across the River Niger, as well as several ongoing special constructions. Chamun Dabeng, Trust TV News, Abuja.
All right. Now, the controversy over the tussle for the traditional ruler seat in Agbowo town in Iwo local government area of Osun State has assumed a dangerous dimension as some aggrieved indigents allegedly attacked and threatened to kill a prominent monarch, Oba Moshood Alamu, in his palace. 4 persons have been arrested by police in connection with the attack on the traditional ruler. However, Oba Alamu is insisting that there is a real danger to his existence and to the lives of his family members, chiefs and aides. Hamid Oebade reports.
Oba Moshood Alamu Okparonke, the Onisahara of Feesu in Iwo local government area of Osun State, is the traditional constituted authority over Agbowo town in Iwo land. Oba Alamu appointed district heads, known as Baale in Yoruba parlance, to be in charge of towns under him for administrative convenience. The state governor, Ademola Adeleke, recently elevated one of the Baales, Prince Musbau Akande Gbenosola, to become the Olu of Agbowo. But those aggrieved by Akande's promotion by the governor unleashed their anger on Oba Alamu.
They said that they wanted to kill me because the government promoted Olu of Agbowo, that is Musbau Gbenosola, to Obashi. So the state government has the power to promote anybody from Bale to Oba. Not chief, not ordinary chief, but anybody that become Bale, they can promote. The state government has the right for the promotion. So that is how they said I'm the one that promoted. I say, oh, how can I do it? The state government, you don't see the paper.
But not all residents of Agbowo are unhappy with the elevation of Oba Akande. In fact, some are delighted because of his antecedents when he served as Baale.
See the pronouncement of our Baale Gbenosola being promoted to be king in our community here. We are very happy with the pronouncement, and we are very supportive with that man, because Baba Gbenosola is a very good man in the environment.
Yeah. So we are grateful and we are happy, and we are thanking the governor of Osun State for bestowing us this opportunity. We are grateful.
It is a welcome development. In fact, the people of Agbowo are very grateful to our amiable governor. We are even praying for him to move higher, to go higher, higher, and higher.
The new Oba, Musbau Akande Gbenosola, appealed to people of Agbowo to continue to live peacefully and warned that whoever that goes against the law will not go scot-free. My people of Agbowo town, let us cooperate. I need your cooperation. Don't go against the law. Whoever that goes against the law will be punished according to the law. God will bless all of us. Agbowo shall be peaceful. The traditional ruler called on police to properly investigate the attack on Oba Alamu and prosecute the perpetrators. Hamid Oyegbade, Trust TV News, Osogbo.
All right, thank you, Hamid Oyegbade, for that report. We'll now go for a very short break. When we return, we're going to our first discussion of the day, which borders on World Malaria Day. Please stay.
Now, as part of efforts to support Africa's goal of strengthening...
Now, looking at the activity chart, as you can see right here, a total volume of 130...
Inherited a Boko Haram crisis that at that time was restricted to Yobe.
How secure are they? You can see security men with blood.
This is the road leading up to the...
Already, if you look at England's squad,
You are looking at EPL, you are looking at their names. You are not looking at...
All right, thank you for staying. You're watching Daybreak on Trust TV. Time for us to take a look at the World Malaria Day. Today, Nigeria joins the global community to observe the World Malaria Day. And World Malaria Day is an international observance commemorated every year on 25th of April and recognizes global efforts to control malaria. Globally, 3.3 billion people in 106 countries are at risk of malaria, and in 2012, malaria caused an estimated 627,000 deaths, mostly among African children. Now, the theme of this year's Malaria Day is Time to Deliver Zero Malaria, Invest, Innovate, and Implement. Now, today, we have in the studio Mr. Chukwuma Okoronko, who is the Director and Head of Surveillance, Monitoring, Evaluations and Operations of the National Malaria Eradication Program with us in the studio. Thank you so much for joining us, Doctor, on the program this morning.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yes. To begin with, how would you describe Nigeria's response to this I would say, age-long disease, malaria, that we've been dealing with over the years?
Nigerian response has been, I'll put it, yes, they've responded well, but they are also hampered by a whole lot of issues. So while we've been making progress, and we've seen quite progress being made in control and elimination of malaria, we still have a long way to go. So yes, there is some progress that is being made, and I can give you some examples. For example, we have reduced prevalence, national prevalence, from 42% to about 22% as at 2021 using our MIS. Now that's something significant over a period of time. Yes, in terms of mortality, in terms of number of cases, we are still not there. So in that context, you will say, no, we are still having a whole lot of cases, over 60 million cases annually, and that has not really dipped. In terms of mortality, if we're looking at overall number of deaths, we still also are not there. But if you look at it in terms of ratio, comparing to the population, then we also have a significant drop in terms of mortality due to malaria.
Okay, there's a report here that says Nigeria recorded, out of the figure of deaths, 619,000 deaths documented globally. Nigeria recorded 31% of that number. That's huge. And Nigeria, in terms of money, loses $1.1 billion, an equivalent of 645 million naira yearly to malaria prevention. Yet, we still have this number of deaths. We still have so many people coming down with it. Why is that so?
Well, there are several constraints, and that's why, again, the issue of the team is quite apt. It's talking about innovate, it's talking about implement, it's also talking about invest. So have we invested enough resources to be able to control the disease in 36 days plus FCT? Are we implementing up to scale in terms of the interventions that we know work? Have we done some innovative work? Are there things that we can innovate? So these are the issues. Now let me go down a little bit to details when I talk about investment. Currently, about 2/3 of the states have some funding for malaria in terms of donor support. A third is just about beginning that support with the help of the World Bank and Islamic Development Bank. And that is through a loan that is given to the country. So for over 15 years, or let's just say 10 years, these 1/3 of states, 13 states, plus FCT, have not had any support. And with malaria, once you take off your foot from the brakes, there is a
when you say they've not had any support, you're talking about international support, right?
Exactly.
How about homegrown support? What are the governments of states doing?
Good. That is also part and parcel of our task. We've done that through a whole lot of activities. We've done advocacies at the highest level. We're engaging with the Governors Forum. We are doing a whole lot of things to make sure that also government puts its resources. And I can tell you they're also trying. For example, in terms of nets, in distribution of nets, they're also doing some counterpart funding. But I'm afraid, as you know, the economy is somewhat on the downturn, and there are lots and lots of competing interests. So government could do as much as it could, and that, of course, has not been sufficient, unfortunately. Maybe not due to any fault of theirs, but because of the resources that's available to them. We're trying to think about innovative ways of doing these things and mobilizing domestic resources. Let me give you an example. One of the things we are doing as an innovative way of mobilizing domestic resources. In recent times, we have established what we call the Nigerian End Malaria Council. That End Malaria Council was inaugurated by the president himself and has a chair with Alhaji Dangote as a chair. I'm sure you're aware of that. And it's constituted of eminent private sector leaders. And we think by that we could be able to motivate, that we could be able to have resources from the domestic front, from the private sector, and get them also to advocate to government at the highest level to make sure that funding is made available for malaria at each state and at the national level, and if possible, at the local government level as well.
Okay, so talking about innovation here, you are talking about innovation with regards to, pooling resources to be able to fund some of these projects. But in terms of innovation as to, say, coming up with drugs or coming up with things that are things that will locally work for us as a country, what are some of the interventions or initiatives, by your organization?
First and foremost, there are standard interventions that have been proved to be effective and impactful for malaria, as far as malaria is concerned. One of it is the usage of just the net, insecticide-treated nets. So once we use this consistently, it's already been proven to work. But the problem is first ensuring that it reaches everyone. What we want to achieve is the UHC, universal health coverage, as far as nets are concerned. Two, which is more important, is to make sure that people use them for what they are supposed, using them correctly and consistently. So that's one. There's another intervention that we could do, which has also proved impactful, but which is also difficult for us because of the financial outlay that is necessary to implement it. And that is the indoor residual spray. With indoor residual spray, you could crash the malaria burden in a very short while, but maintaining it is a problem. So the problem now is, where is the capital outlay to be able to implement IRS? I'm talking about the preventive aspect. Now there are other preventive aspects, such as the seasonal malaria chemo prevention. Just shortly you were talking about children, and here is another distance. It's preventive, but this is targeted at areas or states where there are about 4 months of rains. So in those areas, that's why it's called seasonal malaria chemo prevention. So in those areas, what do? We distribute drugs, preventive medicines to children under 5, and try to make sure so that they stay safe. So by that, we are reducing, one, the severity of the disease and the possibility of them even having the disease. But more importantly is that we are reducing the severity and the less chance that they will also die from that disease. So we have these preventive measures. Of course, on the curative side, we also have our normal and routine case management issues. And these are the things that we are rolling across all the places. But there are behavioral issues.
Let's talk about the preventive aspect. You talked about the nets.
Okay.
In today's Nigeria, how would you describe the coverage of those nets? Do people in rural areas have access to these nets? And how far would you say it has gone, and how available are these nets?
At the last meeting, at the last MIS, that's Malaria Indicator Survey, we discovered that over 50% of Nigerians use net.
Over 50, that means we have over 100 million people without the nets.
No, using. In terms of access to nets, we have something like over 60%. So access, there are two different things, usage. So in terms of access, more people have access. Incidentally, those in the rural areas are the ones that we prioritize, not even in the urban areas, because we have what we call subnational tailoring. We try to make sure that those in the most endemic areas, one, two, those who are unlikely to afford the nets, two, and then able to get the interventions that they require. But the problem is, of course, the usage. Those in the rural areas, incidentally, also receive from what we distribute in the urban areas, not by our knowledge, but because people like you and me who are living in the urban areas send what we have given to them. And incidentally, in some of these rural areas, they have more than enough that they tend to sell it.
Okay, let me just kind of derail just a bit. It looks like a derailment, but not exactly. We have situations where these nets that are being donated sold out on the streets. Are you aware of that?
There is a possibility. During our campaigns, we've had instances where we caught some people that were about to divert the nets. So there is a possibility. How does that work? Sometimes it works not by the fact that people who are distributing them, we try to put in stringent measures, including the ICTs. I mean, using ICT to be able to dictate to people that we are distributing to. We have that. So we can track every net that is being distributed at the time of distribution. So how do they get to the streets? The people who are given this nets also tend to sell them, and then there are people who want to make money. So what do? They go back to these people. Maybe they have 4, 6, 7, depending on what they say is the number of people in their households. We distribute based on number of people in the household. We try to cap it at 2. That's our 2 per person, 2 persons per net. And by the time we give, for example, a household of 4 of 8, and we give them 4, and they discover they have maybe 2 other old ones, and they are not using it, they tend to sell the other 2. They may even think that, oh, well, our present problem is hunger and not the net. So they tend to sell all of it in order to be able to meet their need at that moment in time.
Okay, so if they are selling these nets because they want to meet the needs, as you said, and in Nigeria today, people look at malaria and say it's common malaria. The child is just having malaria. What is your what is the ministry doing to really sensitize the people? Do the people really understand the severity of malaria? Because if we're recording this number of deaths, malaria is not common. Do they know that?
Exactly. I'm glad that also you are here telling me about that, when also we are also asking you to make sure that people know about it, because we rely not on ourselves, but on media organizations such as yours to be able to pass on this message. So we are trying as much as possible to highlight that fact. But you've made the point. 3 out of 10 people that die out of malaria is in Nigeria. That's a huge lot. And a quarter of people who are having cases worldwide is in Nigeria. Nigeria has the biggest burden as far as the world is concerned. And there are things that we, each and every one of us, could do. And that's part and parcel of what we are, part of the essence of World Malaria Day, to try to sensitize, mobilize, ensure that people understand that malaria is not common. That malaria is a killer. And one of the worst, the biggest killers as far as children are concerned, including pregnant women. Okay. In fact, there are 2 of those who are most at risk: children under 5 and pregnant women. And that's why we specially target them. And we try as much as possible to reach out with messages that they can that they know that malaria is not simply ordinary, that it can be.
Okay, let's talk about our capacity, still talking about innovation, our capacity to produce. So we talked about nets. We could also talk about the drugs itself in terms of production. What's our capacity like? And how much have we invested in our capacity to produce?
There are companies, 1 or 2, that has the capacity to produce net in Nigeria. In fact, one of them, I think, is situated in the east. And there have been efforts to try and see how we can engage them and make sure they're able to supply for the country. But it's a commercial venture. So, and are they only going to be dealing with government? We tend to distribute nets on a 3-year rolling basis. So each state, depending on the funding that's available, tend to get net every 3 years, as far as everybody gets the net every 3 years. So would they depend on that? Would they be able to survive on that? That's been one of the questions they've been asking. So that's an issue that we are dealing with, trying to see how we can engage with them to make sure that they can supply not only the government but also the Nigerian populace, be able to make sure that they also break even, because for them it's a question of profit.
Yeah, talking about profit, there are some persons that argue that the reason malaria has stayed and continues to ravage the public is because some persons are cashing out. There are some persons that argue that instead of us actually as a country looking for a solution or how to prevent it, instead we keep making new malaria drugs all the time. When you go to the pharmacies, you just see all sorts of different malaria drugs. So my question is, are we focusing on, are we on the right track? Shouldn't we be looking at how to prevent rather than the production of all of these malaria drugs, which we see all the time?
Yes. First, let me tackle it from two sides. The issue of prevention, I've talked about it a lot and still want to emphasize on that. There are several preventive measures. I've mentioned about 3 already. And one is the SMC. The other one, of course, is the SMC that also deals with drugs and medicines. The other one is the ITN. The other one is, of course, the IRS, which I told you about, the capital outlay. So yes, it is still there. But people are still going to come down with malaria for whatever reason. Let me give you also another issue. We are seeing a kind of shift in the behavior of the vector, the mosquito itself. So what we are seeing now is, one, some form of, before they are more of indoor biting, but now what we are seeing is a gradual shift to both indoor and outdoor biting. So what do? We still need to tackle the outdoor while we are still tackling the indoor, the issues about the indoors. So we still have that problem. So people are going to come down with malaria, if not for anything, because of they have to stay outdoors. Again, issues about behavior comes into play. So the question now is, what do you do when you come down with malaria? So you need those drugs. But the question is, are we seeking, what's our health seeking behavior like? When we actually get to the health center and do we stick to the regimen as prescribed by the health provider? These are issues. So yes, there are politics, global politics around everything, but the issue is, have we done our own part?
You talked about the outdoor biting of the mosquitoes. How about fumigation? Wouldn't that help? Constant fumigation, that will not help.
To what extent? Let's just take the issue of fumigation. First, you have to look at the insecticide you are going to be using. Number 2, you have to talk about the coverage. Number 3, how do you prevent reinvasion in the area that you are fumigating? Who is going to be responsible for that fumigation? I'm talking about outside. The issue of indoor residual spray, which is something that we are saying that it is a good way to do. So if we do that, then we'll be able to make significant progress. But what you have touched indirectly is the issue of environmental management. That's what you've touched indirectly. And this is something that both the community and the government has responsibility for. Most countries that eliminated malaria did not eliminate it because they used actually the medicines, no, but because of environmental management. If we're able to do basic environmental management, make sure that roads are we have good roads where drainages work, so issues about water being stagnant somewhere, serving as breeding sites, will not apply. People are able to, to clear their surroundings, make sure that these places, are not reservoirs, then we're in business.
Could this be the reason why we have predominance of this disease on the African continent and not in the developed countries like in Europe and the rest of them?
Sure, climate plays a huge role. There is absolutely no way. That's the essence of it. Where, there are when we talk about in mountainous areas, that's why if you research well, you discover that we say that 97% of the population in the country, we didn't say 100%, are at most at risk, because there is a small percentage that live in high, elevated, very elevated areas where, as we know, mosquitoes do not breed in very cold areas. So in those areas where it's temperate, then we do not expect.
Is there a correlation to why malaria has lingered on the continent for so long? Between this, correlation between what we are just talking about now, not having prevalence of malaria in Europe, in other developed countries, and you have it more in Africa. Is there a correlation there? Because now recently, let me give an instance. Recently, Ghana was the first country to adopt the R21. I'm sure you are aware of that. Nigeria followed suit as second, and our R21 is a vaccine, malaria vaccine for children, basically. Now, there are talks about lack of funding we all know where the whole innovation came from Oxford University. And now there are talks about the fact that since this innovation is not for use in developed countries, it's in Africa, this whole initiative is going to suffer from lack of funding and the rest of them. So do you see a correlation between these environmental and climate issues and the reasons why this issue is still more predominant in the African continent?
No, I will try to isolate issues about climate and the fact that the climate gives that suitability for the breeding of the vector, and these other issues that we are raising in terms of interventions, because you are also going into interventions and the reasons for these interventions. So I would tend to pull them not on the same scale, as it were, or not on pull them on the same level. The fact that not just Africa, but also parts of Asia are also in the malaria belt, simply because of the climate. Now, what did they do, or what they failed to do, determines the burden of malaria in those countries. Unfortunately, in Africa, we have, and particularly in Nigeria, we have issues in terms of how we do our things or what we fail to do, and of course in terms of resources that we have available also to do a lot of things that we ought to have done. So that's this. But for the vaccine, as we know, it's a good development as far as I am concerned. Actually, there are now 2 vaccines available. This one is mentioned by Oxford, and then there is the RTSS vaccine, which already has been approved by the WHO. Incidentally, the one you've mentioned, the Oxford, has not yet been officially approved by WHO. Well, I'm sure that that's going to come up very soon. So we already have that. We already have a vaccine. But the problem is not just the cost, because again, there is Gavi has already indicated its interest to fund countries to be able to, or assist countries to be able to procure the vaccine and to hopefully to distribute if they can mobilize some additional domestic resources. But the problem is also the production. As you remember, in the COVID-19, this thing, it started that way. And first, when they started with their own side before shifting to the African side. So now what they are doing is there is a production, because how many companies are currently producing it? So that is the problem. So what we are having as a challenge in terms of vaccine, for at least the one WHO has approved, is the issue of production. Nigeria is going to apply for about 100,000 doses between 2020 now and 2024. Now that is not even sufficient for one LGA.
So now that we know that we have this problem, and it happened, like you noted, during the COVID, where of course the developed countries, they funded the vaccine, of course, so it had to go to them first.
Exactly.
Now malaria is our problem. So would you say that Nigeria has mobilized and engaged all its research institutes to see how they can come up with homegrown vaccine, or something homegrown, so that this issue of production, funding, and all of that will take backstage? Have we really utilized our research institutes, knowing very well that this is our problem, not that of the West?
I wish I could be able to address your question, because this is a policy issue. But I know that we have very sound research institutions. We have NIMA, we have, quite a number of them. And at least the little we know is that they are also into that. But how far they have gone is something that we cannot say. How they'll be able to roll it out in the next, if they have gone significantly, is something that we are waiting to see. But the question is, have we funded these local institutions to be able to deliver on their mandates? Ab initio. That's a big problem. Research and development does not come cheap. People invest in it. Companies invest in it for long periods before it can yield something tangible. Then you can start talking about experimental studies, about field trials, and all. They don't come cheap at all. Have we been able to invest as a country in these kind of things? I believe that, not to me, but to all of us, and to those who are responsible for this.
All right, so on our part, let's talk about environmental management here. How do you preach environmental management to people in the rural communities where, the goal is just to have a shelter? It's not to have a serene environment. It's not to make sure everywhere is, clean and everything. So how do you preach that? Because that's a very key component to the issues, where you have malaria or you have mosquitoes breeding, in an environment that they consider, quite habitable for them. So how do we manage environment really?
The basic issue for us is not necessarily first the message about environmental message, but first people's perception of malaria. She mentioned something about this, that people refer malaria as common. They think that malaria is something that they will have, their children will have. If they don't have it, it's abnormal for them.
So first, it has been normalized, sort of.
That's the problem. So we need to have a paradigm shift, and that's what we are working on. But of course, we are also telling them about the fact that they can do a whole lot. Take away your tires, those of you who have vehicles, and sometimes you take away the vehicles, the tires of the vehicle, and you dump them one side. They become breeding sites because water collects inside them. People who fetch water in the rural areas, as you know, when it is raining, they bring out their pots, and then water falls into them, or they even go to the stream, pulls the rainwater, pulls whatever they have done into containers, and leave it open. This becomes reservoirs. Or they leave their surroundings. It's not even a question of being dirty, but having reservoirs of water around them. So we try as much as possible to make sure that we encourage them to dispense of these reservoirs or cover them where appropriate. But first, if there's no change in mentality, change in behavior becomes difficult.
So, okay, today is World Malaria Day, and I do know that I'm sure there are lots of activities lined up to mark the day, and there'll be a lot of talk shops and all of that. After today, what happens? Is there any follow-up? Will the ministry continue sensitization? I mean, what follows up?
That's why the National Malaria Elimination Program exists. They don't exist only for World Malaria Day. They exist 365 days because they have activities and interventions to coordinate and implement with partners and stakeholders. So activities go on. We make sure that nets are being distributed. We make sure in distributing the nets that we also follow up with the right messages so that people understand why they should use the nets consistently and constantly. So we also have the SMC going on. We also have making sure that we distribute medicines that are supported by donor funds free of charge in the various health facilities in some of these supported states so that people can access them. We want to make sure that people take their children once they develop fever, let them take that child immediately to the health facility. We want to make sure that people test. I want to emphasize that before treatment. Every one of us is guilty, maybe including some of us who are talking to me now. What do? They said, oh, I know this is malaria. I know it. So it cannot be malaria. But incidentally, they go and take, they've not tested, they go and take anti-malaria. And they feel all right. So they feel their self-diagnosis is right. No, it does not. We need to emphasize, and that's what we're emphasizing.
Is it possible that maybe because of how frequently people get this thing, that is why they don't go for tests anymore? I mean, some people treat malaria 3 times in a month.
Exactly, and that is wrong. There are 2 things that is a problem there. First, ACTs is the only line of drugs now available for effective treatment of malaria. If this fails, and we are seeing the signs, we're in trouble because we have to develop another line. So by the time people keep on treating themselves with this, we are in danger of
you just said something. You said you're seeing the sign that the ACT is failing?
Yeah, there are in some countries. We've had that report. In Asian countries, that is clear already. So, and we don't want that to happen in Africa. But we're seeing the signs already. The flags are coming up. In a few parts of Africa that we are seeing some of these red flags. But fortunately, it has not happened. Not significantly in the country. So by the time people keep on doing these same issues, doing this, we are in danger of developing resistance. Having this develop resistance. And that will be a problem. So it does not cost too much to test. And incidentally, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, the result of the test is out. Why will we keep on doing the same thing? I know also, again, I will come back to you who is talking to us because you also run adverts. And advanced by these manufacturing companies. drug manufacturing drug. They said, oh, if symptoms persist, see your doctor after 3 days. Indirectly, what are they saying? They say, when you have...
Take the drug first.
Take the drugs first. Then, if symptoms persist, then you can go through the normal process. No, it does not work that way.
Exactly. So who is speaking about, I mean, who is speaking up against that to, the companies, these malaria, producing companies? Who is challenging them on that premise?
We are trying to speak to those companies, but more importantly, we are speaking also to the, I think it's the advertising practitioners, APCON or so, that is regulating advertising. We want to make sure that they understand the issues. We've spoken to them, but of course, certain things have not changed. So we're in the business of also sensitizing these companies as much as we can, but it's an uphill task.
Okay.
I can tell
So
you.
you talk about seeking tests, because I'm looking at how realistic and practical this is in our climate. We are in a country where we talk about access to health as a big challenge. You have people in the rural communities who cannot even, do not even have access to hospitals. They cannot even, get medical practitioners, doctors to attend to them as at when due and all that. So do you see this as very practical?
Two things. One aspect of our interventions is the fact that in some of the places where we're talking about, in most of these places, malaria commodities are free, paid by the donors. When I talk to you about issues concerning funding our donor support, one of the areas of that donor support is the issue of provision of commodities free of charge to patients, to clients, especially those in those rural areas. So all they needed to do is to be able to make sure that they take their children or themselves to those facilities. And they are there. And we also have people that we've engaged, in quite a number of them, trying to sensitize the community that these are available. Of course, we know there are issues also of the logistic issues, where sometimes these may not be available and there are stockouts. So that also happens. The other thing, quickly, is the fact that we're also doing some experiment with medicine dealers, community pharmacies, PPMVs, all these ones, so that we see whether they can be able, because they reach a huge chunk of the Nigerian populace, they go to them. I said, why don't you give me mix something for me and I'll be okay. We're also trying to reach out to them. We are currently on a pilot project trying to see how we can first change the orientation of these PPMVs so that they can stick to quality of care. First, do some testing and then be able to give them the right medicine.
Okay, let's not also forget that we have people, for some reason, don't believe in modern medicine. They don't believe in these drugs that you're talking about. They would rather go to their herbal or herbalist sort of and get some concoctions there.
Traditional medicine.
Yes, and then maybe for some for some religious reasons, as a matter of fact,
Sure.
they don't think that they should take drugs. They should pray that God will heal them and the rest. Yes, there's a miracle aspect. God actually works wonders. But then, what do you say to them on a day like this?
I don't want to interfere with first religious beliefs, because religious beliefs can be held deeply and can be very personal. But we think also that they should also be able to look through and say to themselves, for example, do you leave your door open when you sleep in the night simply because you believe God can protect you? The answer is no. When you do a whole lot, do you say, okay, God will supply my need, and then you fold your hand and stay in-house and do nothing? Of course not. So there is always the aspect that you have to take care of yourself and then expect God or whatever you believe in to also to take care of yourself.
But there are some people who take these traditional medicines,
I'm coming to that,
because
yes.
they say, because they've lost faith in the orthodox ones. They tell you that when they take these tablets, they don't work, and that's why they went for those ones.
Sure, we've got a whole variety of reasons why people don't take medicines. A whole lot, when they say it's a difference of why actually they do it. Sometimes they say it's because they lost faith. But most of the times, and we've seen that over and over again, it's a question of poverty. It's a question, well, maybe not poverty, it's a question of resources.
It's true, malaria drugs are becoming very expensive.
Yeah, so when you combine that together, expensive in their context, given where they are and what they think they need the money for, so it's in that context, it's expensive. So when you combine it with a test, now that's a little bit expensive. So they feel, I mean, I don't have to spend this money. I can use it for something else when I can easily take my traditional medicine and I will feel okay. And incidentally, they feel okay. But they don't know. They've only addressed the symptoms and not necessarily the basic issues.
Right.
And that's a problem.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us on Daybreak. Really, very, very insightful perspectives on this World Malaria Day. Mr. Chukwuma Okoronko, he is the director, the head of surveillance and monitoring, evaluations and operations, National Malaria Eradication Program. Thank you so much for joining us on the show. We look forward to having you again for
Thank
this
you.
sensitization.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you for the interaction. But the name is Chukwu without the ma. So
okay.
yes, I understand that sometimes it does happen.
Okay.
And our program is an elimination program.
I beg your pardon.
Yeah. So thank you very much.
All right. Well, that's our
I appreciate
show.
that.
Yeah. That's our show for today. In case you've missed, you can always catch up across all our social media platforms and also on our YouTube live stream. I am Ayuba Ilya. Thanks for watching. Join us again tomorrow.
Thank you for joining us this morning. Join us same time, same station tomorrow. My name is Stella Iyaji, and do have a very pleasant day.